Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production, now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio, the best in paranormal talk radio, 14 years strong. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dave Schrader. That guy over there, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Wrapping up our third episode in New York City, and tomorrow we are off to begin filming our fourth episode of the Holzer Files for Travel Channel that'll be airing later. I know a lot of you keep asking, when is this going to air? I think people are under the mistaken belief, Tim, that I film an episode and then it should air like a week later.
No.
What we do is we film, each episode is 5 days long, and we film for 10 to 12 hours a day, and they've got to cut all that down to 42 minutes and 43 seconds. And that takes a long time for editing, getting everything right, correcting the colors, correcting the sound, and then producing. So these episodes that I'm filming right now will air hopefully around September, October again, right in our wheelhouse of the strange and supernatural time of year. We will be back with more episodes. This year, 13 episodes. Last year, 10 episodes, Tim. This year, 13 episodes. Hopefully, we'll just keep growing every year as we continue building this program, the Holzer Files on Travel Channel. If you missed any of them, check the Travel Channel Go app and check Travel Channel On Demand. Go to their website, travelchannel.com. You can find episodes there to watch and catch up. I think they've also got a YouTube channel for the Holzer Files Travel Channel. They've got, I think it's available on Hulu for purchase, Amazon for purchase. So there's many different ways for you to catch up on the Holzer Files. If you missed first season, I'll forgive you. I'm that kind of guy, Tim. I don't know if you know that about me, but I'm a forgiving man.
I've heard that,
Yeah. So I want people to feel okay about having missed it. Just don't do it anymore. Now that you know, you have no excuse. So watch the old episodes. First 10, amazing. And I got to tell you, Tim, I know these teasers are tough. This episode and just wrapped up, astounding.
Really?
Really cool story and something I personally have never seen on any paranormal TV show or any evidence. I've seen subtle hints of paranormal activity. Mm-hmm. This one floored us all, everybody. So I'm really excited. I hope people will tune in and check that out. That'll come out again this coming fall. We've got some big changes coming to the show. For most of you, it doesn't matter. You're not even going to really notice the changeover. We're just going to be delivering the show in a new and improved way, just like we're going to be doing with our True Crime Tuesday program. So you just keep following what we're doing. You'll see it. And once we've got all the information out, we will post it, let you know about it. If you're watching this, of course, right now on our YouTube channel, keep subscribing. It costs nothing. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like these videos. You'll always be alerted to every new video as it comes up. And I do keep trying to put up some cool episodes for you to check out. Our new episodes, some classic bits, and some other exclusive material. But we will give you a full video update of all the great changes and all the cool things that are heading your way. And I can promise you, folks, you're going to like what we've got in store for you. All right, let's get started, Tim. It's Sunday. It's time for an interview. I got this message. And, I love when we can get publicists that are sending out a message, to us looking and then congenially asking, would this be a guest you'd be interested in? Tim, let me just read you just the opening paragraph of this press release. And you let me know if this was a guest we might be interested in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Bigfoot and aliens. A real-life adventure story. When she was 22, Patti Houtz was paid by an archaeology society to be part of an expedition that went in search of Bigfoot. So, Tim, with that opening line, does that sound like it might be in the wheelhouse of what we would be interested in on this show?
No, not really. You got anything else?
No, this is
Okay.
it, Tim. I'm super excited for having this guest join us. Patti Houtz is with us for today and has an amazing story to share. Patti's background, sciences. She attended college on honors scholarship for physics. She's read everything she could find on science fiction as a kid, Bradbury, Verne, Asimov, Clarke, etc., and worked undercover for the CIA in Miami fighting drugs, Tim.
Wow.
She ended up with own business as an investment advisor in Lake Tahoe for many years. And Bigfoot was just getting started in the early 70s, but the tale that she has to tell us is 100% true, as is the story of her possible alien abduction. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Patti Houtz. Am I saying that right, Houtz?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Excellent. Patti, thank you. Is this exciting when you can kind of bridge this chasm of many different aspects of the strange and anomalous that we cover on the show. You got our appetites whetted. We've got a link up for her upcoming memoir, links up for her website, all the information on today's program, so you'll be able to find that easily. Patti, welcome to the program. What a life you've led.
It's really been remarkable, I must admit. That's why I wrote the book. And
now the book again is called Solo by Choice. Solo by Choice, and it is the complete memoir of a woman who chose to go it alone, without marriage or children. But you expose your secrets, surprises, and adventures throughout the book. Astounding. Talk to me a little bit, and we'll get into the high strangeness of what you did. But you've done so many things and have such a varied background. Talk to me a little bit about your life and your fascination with this.
Oh, wow. I think I was probably born with more curiosity than I should have had. And I just followed it. When I saw something that just knocked me over, I read everything I could find. And I learned what I didn't know, I taught myself. And it led to a lot of adventures. And I didn't have the, I hate to say it this way, but I wasn't tied down with kids or a marriage. And so I was free. I was free to do whatever I wanted to. And I found that I found a lot more adventure than I thought I was going to. I'll tell you that.
It certainly sounds like it. Now, just out of curiosity, in your life up to these moments, did you have any understanding or belief? Obviously, you love science fiction, but did you believe in the possibility of ghosts or aliens or Bigfoot?
Not necessarily ghosts, but Bigfoot, yes. It was back in the, oh my God, where was it? The 60s, when that first picture came out that was of a Bigfoot walking in California. That
right, the Patterson Gimlin film, yeah.
There you go, yes, the Patterson film. And and then you got the abominable snowman. I mean, this guy's all, if he's real, is all over the place. He's all over the world. Wherever there is enough wild left over for him to keep hidden most of the time. Whether they are still around, I don't know. But it is a wonderful thing to think about. And certainly there are a lot of people out there that are trying to make a living saying that they saw the Bigfoot, which I didn't do, by the way.
All right, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit here. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit here. Let's, walking through your life and obviously having such a varied background and interest, and especially in science, the concept of something like that living here in America, though, a Bigfoot, that would be, a bipedal 7 to possibly 9 foot tall, hairy hominid creature that is very rarely sighted. I mean, did science tell you this was a possibility, a probability, or an impossible concept?
Possibility. It was a possibility. That's why I mentioned a moment ago, I don't know if there are any still out there, but I think that 50 years ago, there was still a possibility. And, but we have no proof, Dave. Other than footprints, and a couple of not great photographs, with the exception of the Patterson. All these years, and we don't have concrete proof. And that's always,
right.
It's made me wonder.
Well, for you, getting involved in this, I want to know just a little bit of your background. How do you get from your position to helping the CIA in Miami battling crime? What was that step like for you?
I ran into a fellow, and he thought he was James Bond. And as it turns out, he was in part. And he was working for a CIA agent, and I kind of got pulled in, and we were exactly what they were looking for, in the sense that at that time there wasn't a DEA, the Department of for the drugs, but everybody was trying to fight the drug problem. So it was a combination of the CIA, the FBI, the local police, the Coast Guard, and everybody was trying to catch the bad guys. And my boyfriend and I were perfect because we were a couple. We weren't an individual. And it made us much easier to accept in a group of people. And we found that it was easy to infiltrate the drug groups and hear things that perhaps we shouldn't have heard, but we did. And we became couriers. And we would take the suitcases, if you will. And we were friendly. We didn't ask too many questions, and it all worked for us. And then we got other jobs, and the other jobs were delivering suitcases most of the time.
Okay.
And they were, and it was either full of guns, full of money, mostly full of drugs. And it was a very exciting time, but it was also a dangerous time. And we were very lucky that we didn't get bad things happening to us. And because we carried guns all the time, we knew how to use them. A friend of a friend.
But wait, this all sounds so absurd. I'm not questioning the legitimacy of it, but it's just like, oh yeah, I started dating a guy from a Suzuki dealership, and he trained the divers at the Bay of Pigs, and we became covert operatives. It's like, how do you make that step? I mean, that's like the plot line from a bad 1960s spy movie that a hapless couple ends up, employed by the CIA with passing these secrets. That is so surreal to even conceive. That's
why I wrote the book. Nobody Nobody believes that it could happen, but it did. And now we're going back 40 years, Dave, so it wasn't like it was something that absolutely could not happen, because back then a lot of things were happening that people didn't necessarily, that couldn't happen today, let's put it that way. And it was a completely surreal type of thing. You had the right word, surreal. And but anyway, they needed some. There had been some spottings of Bigfoot over on the west coast of Florida, in the Big Cypress Swamp, which is in the southeast part of the Everglades. And some fishermen had been seeing something in a particular cove that looked like a man standing about waist deep in what would have been about 4 feet of water, they said, depending on the tides. And there was a fisherman that had seen him more than once in that place. And that's how the Archaeological Society got involved. They said, we've heard about this Bigfoot thing. I wonder if he's real. Let's go look. And
but this had nothing to do. This had nothing to do with your CIA work. This was a different. Well, this was working with the Archaeological Society, right?
Right, but it had to do with the fact that John and I were good security, if you will, because we had guns, we knew how to use them, and they wanted some sort of security on the expedition, just in case things got nasty. And we were asked to participate, and the money was good, so we said yes. And the Archaeological Society, Peninsular, coming from Florida, Peninsular Archaeological Society.
Let me ask one thing.
6 people. Yeah.
Let me ask one thing, though, real quickly. Okay, obviously you come from this cloak and dagger spy society helping the CIA, and suddenly they want you to, the Archaeological Society wants you to go in search of Bigfoot. I mean, how are you and John processing that? I mean, to go from drug rings and
the money.
Cartel to Bigfoot. Did it seem like a silly?
And it was.
Did it seem like a silly job?
Say again?
Did it seem like it was going to be just a silly job, but we needed the money, or was it something that really piqued both of your curiosities?
Oh, we were piqued. We were very curious, and we'd heard enough about, the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Abominable Snowman, all of it, that we said, I'll be doggone. This will be fun. But it turned out not to be fun. It was a job.
All right.
And
walk us through that. When you get called, you agree to take on this job, and you started to tell me they were putting together this team. Who did they include in this team?
Well, we had the fishermen that could spot the cove for us and find that. John and I. There was a National Geographic photographer and 2 people from the Archaeological Society.
So did you say National Geographic?
National Geographic photographer, yes.
Okay, so you've got a photographer from National Geographic. So there's many.
Bigfoot drew some, there was a lot of interest back then.
Right.
Nobody knew if it was true, but they were all anxious to see if they could be the one to prove it.
So you set out to go there. First of all, this area that they're taking you to, I mean, it's rife with, alligators and snakes and things that want to eat and kill you. I mean, that's intimidating enough. But now you're going in search of this large, for lack of a better term, monster. Did any of that dissuade you, or were you fully armed and ready in case there was something?
We were ready, and probably like a lot of people, we were 50-50 in our heads, Dave. and 50% we believed we really might find something, and the other 50% said, this is all a bunch of BS. And but it's a good job and pays well, and we've got the time, and let's go. And that's what happened. And we ended up on an island, what they call a hammock, in the Everglades, about 5 acres, I would say. And it was next to the cove where the fisherman had said that he had seen the Bigfoot. And we packed everything in. We came in 3 boats, and it was, we set up camp, and the National Geographic, the photographer went to set up his cameras looking out on the cove, see if he could get some shots, because it was already after lunch at that particular point. And
how, could I ask real quickly, how long was this whole expedition expected to take for you guys? Was it going to be a one and done? 2 days. Okay.
2 days.
So you were all geared up for a 2-day expedition. All right. Please continue then. All right.
All right. He was off setting up his cameras, and John and I decided to take the smaller John boat and go around the island. When we came on the island, John and I discussed this later. The whole thing felt strange, weird, like there was somebody watching you. And so we decided to take the little boat around the island. Again, we're talking about 5 acres here, and maybe a little bit more. And typical Florida islands are surrounded by mangroves. And in this particular case, we were on the other side of the island, and there was a small cove in there. And John was rowing the boat, so we didn't make any noise. And we figured, well, we'll just look, and we'll see whether or not we see anything moving. And so we rowed in, and the mangroves there, Dave, were only about, they were young, maybe 2 feet out of the water, but we were surrounded by them. And but we had a good, you could see the whole island from there because they weren't that big. The trees weren't, and the mangroves weren't. And we settled in, and a couple of minutes later, John said, God, I'm tired. And I said, me too. And he took one of the oars, and he drove it into the bottom of the cove. The water was probably about 2 feet deep at that point. And when he drove it in, he was going to use it as an anchor, okay? When he drove it in, we heard a thump, which was very strange. And we looked at each other, but we were so tired. And I kind of slipped down into the boat and used a life preserver as a pillow. And he took his arm and wrapped it. He was a big guy, about 6'1", 6'2", and he wrapped his arm around the oar so that the oar was in the underside of his elbow, if you will, and then grabbed the boat with the hand. So he'd locked in the oar, so we did not move. And the next thing I knew, just before I fell asleep, I looked over. He was sound asleep with his head on his shoulder. And the next thing I knew, I woke up, and it was the boat was in the little mangroves, and they were scraping against the aluminum boat, and that's what woke me up, the sound. And
wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. So you're out there in search of Bigfoot, and suddenly both of you find yourself sound asleep.
Yep.
So is there any, I mean, it's not like you guys were rowing out there and going to just take a little nap. This was an unplanned, unscheduled event that was happening.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and
continue,
not like
please.
Us. We were very energetic people. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense. And but when I woke up, he was still asleep. And looked at exactly the same position that he was when I fell asleep, except the oar wasn't there anymore. And I looked around, and the oar was out in the middle of the pond, still standing straight up, but about 20 yards away. And I woke John up, and it took him a minute to figure out what was going on, and then we realized we didn't know what was going on. Both of us had cuts on our wrists. Mine was healed, but his was still bleeding.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You have cuts. You have cuts on your wrist.
I still have the scar. Yeah.
So, but yours was healed.
Not healed, but the blood had coagulated. I mean, it wasn't free flowing any longer.
But did you have blood splatter or anything on you from these cuts? And how long would you say this cut or incision was?
Well, I'm looking at it now. I'd say about an inch. Maybe about an inch. It wasn't that large, but it was on the underside of the wrist. And so was his. But he was still, he wasn't dripping blood, but he was still bleeding, if you will. And we looked around. Now, remember, this is South Florida, and it's about noontime, and it's hot, very hot. And he was in shorts, had taken his shirt off. I was in shorts and a T-shirt. And he looked at his watch while he was trying to come out of being asleep. He looked at his watch, and then he looked at me. I said, "What time is it?" And he told me, and it had been 3 hours. We had been asleep for 3 hours. And
where was the rest of your expedition? Where was the rest of your expedition at this point while you're
camp over on the other side of the island?
Could they see you at any of this time, or were you off around the bend? Okay.
No, it was. There were mangroves, in some cases, like where we were, young mangroves all around the island, but there were also tall trees in the middle of the island. And there were some gumbo limbo trees and other melaleucas, all sorts of South Florida goodies. And so there was a small jungle, if you will, in the center of the island. No, they could not see us. But it was 3 hours, and we looked at each other and realized that neither one of us had a speck of sunburn. It didn't look like we'd been out in the South Florida sun at all. At all. His bare back, the tops of my legs, nothing. There was nothing indicating that we had been sitting there for 3 hours. But his watch said that we had. And at that point, we sort of freaked and said, and we were believers in aliens, by the way, much more so than Bigfoot. And John said, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Now, what time of day was this again, just so we're clear?
We would have been probably between noon and 3 o'clock, the 3 hours, maybe 1 and 4, or 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
So this isn't the dead of night, as we always hear these strange stories. This was broad daylight, middle of the day, between noon and 4, somewhere in that boundaries, that all of this takes place.
Yes.
Hold on, folks.
Was even more interesting, but that was during the day, yes.
We've got more to discuss right after this.
You know what? We all need a break every now and then. Why not keep your brain active while you relax? I know of the perfect way to do it. There's a fun little puzzle game out there called Best Fiends. Dave's playing it. I'm playing it. Miss Winnie's playing it. Everybody's playing it. Everybody we know is playing it. We're all networked together. We're all having a great time playing it. It's an oasis of fun that you can take with you wherever you go. You know what? Every once in a while, we all need some me time. We need to get away from the responsibilities, the kids, your supervisors, whoever it is that's coming down on you. Best Fiends is the best way. It's a nice little fun escape away from the everyday rush of life. It's a unique, exciting puzzle experience, unlike every other puzzle game that's out there. You've got these cute little characters you play with. You're fighting other characters along the way, and you're picking up different challenges along the way as well. It's a combination of different characters and games and puzzles, and it's addicting, man. I'll tell you, I sit down to play this game, and time just flies as I'm playing this game. It's challenging. It works the brain at the same time. It's extremely fun. I have no other way of putting this to you. You got to try it out for yourself. Best Fiends is an amazing game, and I'll tell you, the greatest thing about it, you can take it with you no matter where you go. You don't need the internet necessarily to keep playing Best Fiends. It's great for traveling. You can play it anywhere, on the plane, on the subway. I know when I'm playing it, and I know Dave's not connected because he's traveling, doing the Holzer files, he'll level up and play a bunch of different levels, and then when he's connected, automatically, boom, I see where he's at. He'll go to his level, I'll go to my level, and we'll try to keep up with each other. One gets to one level, the other gets to another level, and we can connect with each other on social media and follow each other as to where we're going with each other. You can collect tons of characters in the game as well to help you get through different challenges. I'm telling you, oh my gosh, this game is so cool, and it sets up lots of different challenges for you. There's all kinds of monthly theme challenges as well that you need to check out. It's got new levels and events. It never gets old. This game is constantly changing, and it finds new ways to surprise you and change as well. Best Fiends has thousands of levels ready with new levels, events, and characters added every month. So you've got hours of fun right at your fingertips. And again, you can play it offline, so you don't need to jump online to keep playing the game. You don't need to be dependent on the internet in order to play Best Fiends. It's amazing. How do you get a hold of Best Fiends? It's real simple. You just go to the Apple App Store or Google Play to download Best Fiends. Again, the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Get Best Fiends today. That's Best Fiends. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends. Go to the Apple App Store or Google Play Store today to get Best Fiends. Do it now. You know, we're firmly into 2020 now. We're into February, and we talked a little bit about New Year, New You, and how to kick that off with Audible. Now, Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. And I told you that I had picked out 3 audiobooks that I was going to check out, and I was going to try to expand my horizons and try to get into 2020 with a new year and a new me. And I had encouraged you guys with a special offer to check out audiobooks and Audible and try to expand your horizons. Now, it turns out that Dave is doing the same thing. And he and I were talking a little bit outside the show yesterday. And he had said that he was checking out Chris Jericho's book, No is a 4-letter word. And interestingly enough, folks, I'm going to tell you this between you and I and the fence post. He actually admitted that he had missed out a little bit on pro wrestling after the 80s, which kind of shocked me because he always kind of gave me a little bit of, you-know-what about watching pro wrestling. He thought that, it was pretty much done in the 80s after Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Roddy Piper, and didn't really realize that there was an art to professional wrestling. So Dave has been listening to Chris Jericho and him reading his book, No is a 4-letter word, and actually been enjoying quite a bit of the stories there. Now, I've been listening to Trevor Noah. I'm a big fan of The Daily Show, and I like Trevor Noah's sense of humor. I've seen him live and in concert, and when I discovered that Audible had his book, I decided that I wanted to go and listen to Trevor's childhood stories. So I went and got Born a Crime. Stories from a South African childhood. And that's incredibly intriguing. And there's some interesting stories in there as well. Everything from his mother throwing him from a moving van to saving him from a potentially fatal dispute with gangsters. Just some really interesting stuff in there coming from South Africa and his childhood there. So check that one out as well if you go to Audible. Born a Crime is what it's called. It's Trevor Noah's stories from his South African childhood. Again, it's called Born a Crime. And he narrates that book, Trevor Noah does. It's very, very interesting. And for our audience, there's a New Year, New You book out there that I'd like you to try. It's another book that I wanted to check out as well. This audiobook is amazing. It's called Overcoming Fear, The Supernatural Strategy to Live in Freedom. It's by Dawn Da Silva with a foreword by Danny Silk, and it's narrated by Ann Richardson. Now, this book, interestingly enough, has to do with fear, anxiety, and stress, and how they motivate us more than we realize, and our need to control situations, leaving us feeling overwhelmed. And it has a little bit to do with how we battle that anxiety, stress, and panic, and how God has given us a biblical strategy to battle that. It's got a little bit of a religious overtone, and how our connection with God helps us overcome that fear. So it's kind of an interesting deal. Sure, there's a little bit of religion there, but it's an interesting audiobook nonetheless to check out. So that one's called Overcoming Fear, The Supernatural Strategy to Live in Freedom, again by Dawn Da Silva, and forward by Danny Silk. It's narrated by Ann Richardson. If you want to get in on the action here at Audible, it's real simple. To kick off 2020, they're focusing on New Year, New You, and they have plenty of content to help you get to your goals, whether it's getting fit, finishing more books, even becoming a better parent, leader, or person in your community. You can download your titles and listen offline if you'd like, anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all your smartphones and tablets. You can listen across devices without losing your spot, which is important, I know, especially for our audience. And if you can't decide what you want to listen to, don't worry. You can keep your credits for up to a year at Audible, and you can use them to binge on a whole series of, if you like. So there are a whole series of books in there, like you've got the Supernatural series of books in there. And if you decide that you want to pick up an entire series, you can go ahead and binge on those audiobooks if you'd like. And there's no problem with that at all. Now, Audible has more than just audiobooks available. They also have podcasts, guided wellness programs, theatrical performances, A-list comedy, and much, much more. Plus, they have exclusive Audible Originals that you won't find anywhere else. Audible has all your audio listening needs in one convenient place. Be sure to check out Audible for all your audio listening needs and some great, great entertainment. Remember, every month members get 1 credit to pick a title, plus 2 Audible Originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. We're kicking off 2020 with a focus on New Year and New You. Our offer to you is this. You can start listening today with a 30-day Audible trial. You simply do this. Just take a look around today. Visit audible.com/BTD or text BTD to 500-500 and you'll get that offer today. Once again, start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. Choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible Originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/BTD or text BTD to 500-500. We encourage you to find something that's going to change the way you think in 2020. Something that's going to change your life, inspire you, motivate you, and basically help you hit your resolution or goal for this year. Find something that'll kind of light that inner fire for you this year. Go to audible.com/BTD today and see if you could find something that'll inspire you, or better yet, maybe even get you going, get you laughing, something that'll change your perspective. One more time, audible.com/BTD or text BTD to 500-500. Start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. You can choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible Originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/BTD or text BTD to 500-500.
Beyond the darkness.
Unbelievable story. Patti Houtz, our guest, her upcoming memoir, Solo by Choice. This woman has led a life that many of us would have thought sounded like it was torn from the pages of a Hollywood movie. But this is her life, working for the CIA, helping to undermine drug cartels, and then finding herself in a unique position. She is brought out by an archaeological society, along with a photographer from National Geographic, fishermen that believe that they have seen a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, and they go in search of this elusive creature to have an even more and bizarre situation unfold. Pat, you're out. You set out. Everybody else goes to set up camp. You and John, your boyfriend at the time, decide to go out seeking some kind of visuals, just get the lay of the land. You are in this boat. Suddenly you see John sound asleep. Then next thing you know, you're waking up. It's 3 hours later. This is, do you remember, first of all, do you remember watching John nod off and fall asleep? Or did it just seem like he was doing one thing, then you turned around and he's unconscious? Then the next thing you know, you're waking up. Is that pretty much how that ran?
That's pretty much what took place. And I was falling asleep while I was watching him falling asleep. And the next thing you know, I'm waking up. So it was about the same time. We were both affected about the same time. And
now, as he's falling asleep, Patti, are you like, John, are you okay? John? Or are you just finding yourself subdued, almost like you're hypnotized?
I felt wasted, man. And it was, if anything went through my mind, it was, gee, that looks like a good idea. I think I'll close my eyes. And we were that tired, and whatever made us that way. And like you said, next thing I knew, I was waking up. And he was still asleep. I woke him up. We ended up not understanding anything about what had just happened to us. We really had no idea. And but there was something. And we had no sunburn. We had the cuts on our hands and on our wrists, And we used
now,
leftover
these cuts.
ore.
Let me just ask,
Yes.
These cuts that are on your wrist, are they running horizontally, as we would see classic slits
Vertically.
where people would attempt to suicide? Okay, so it's running vertically. And
Yep.
is there a puddle of blood in the boat? Is there blood on your clothing? No. Or is it's this cut that's already healing on you? John is still freshly bleeding, though.
Yes. That's
okay.
correct.
So when you wake up, you shake this off, you realize you both have these wounds, you realize you've both been asleep for 3 hours, your minds go immediately. You said that you and John believed in aliens. I want to take you back to that for a second. Why do you have a belief in aliens? And had you two discussed this prior to ever having gone on this expedition?
I'm trying to think whether or not John and I had actually discussed the aliens, but we did both believe in them. And, of course, like I said to you, I had been reading the books, etc., since I was a kid. And what little we knew looked perfectly like what had just happened to us. And it was a guess on our part, but it was a good guess, I think. I like to tell this story and let people decide for themselves what they would have thought if they had been there. And when we went to get we used the leftover ore to go get the ore that was still stuck in the bottom of the pond, and it was tight. It was solidly in there. John had to work it free, and then we got the heck out of there. And we were both scared, and because nothing made any sense to what had happened to us. What was doubly interesting was that we didn't say anything to anyone and about what had happened to us when we got back to the group. And the reason was because we had discussed it, and we said, we are here for the Bigfoot. We don't need to, start all this other stuff, and they're thinking about it. And besides, we don't know really what happened to us. And so we kept quiet about it. That night, as the sun went down, National Geographic guy came back. He'd already set up all of his cameras and stuff, and he had motion detector camera. And we settled in for the night, and the fisherman started telling stories about what he had seen. He was asked by the National Geographic people to do that. He said, tell us again what you saw, when you saw it, and how it affected you. And he told us the stories about he'd seen it 3 times in the same cove next to where we were now camped. And he had spooky stories to tell, but he was scared when he started talking about the stories. And not that I blame him, but we were just about ready to doze off, and we heard something. And it was a rustling sound and a breaking of small branches, if you will, and then there was a large crack. And the first thing that I did, I don't know, maybe my training, whatever, but the first thing I did was I counted everybody. And there were 6 of us there, which means whatever was making that noise, it was not us. Either someone had followed us, someone was maybe playing a practical joke. We didn't know. But we knew that whatever was making the noise, it was not us. And when the loud crack came, John had his gun out immediately. I reached for mine, but he was much faster. And he took charge. He said, nobody move. Not a bit. And listen. Just listen. And we did. And it was nothing. We didn't hear anything more. And it was a difficult time, I think, for everyone, because we just could. There's so much about the Bigfoot, Dave, that you just can't figure out. He doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, and he is very secretive, and he's able to do the sorts of things that we were talking about. So the night didn't go very well. We never heard anything more.
Well, these stories that he would relate to you, could you go a little bit more in depth into them? I mean, this is campfire fodder, right? I mean, you're there listening to these stories from the man in the area that he's had these encounters. How is that affecting you, John, the photographer, and everybody in attendance?
Scared us. And we were very nervous. And it scared us big time. And it scared him again, too. I think that was part of it. He scared himself so damn bad that, that he was just, it was contagious. And it was difficult for us to, I'm not going to say believe him, because he believed what he was saying. There was no doubt. He believed it, so we sort of believed it too. And, but the night was lost, if you will. Nobody slept. And we waited until the next morning, as soon as we could. And the National Geographic guy left first.
Hold on one second. But these sounds that you heard, just describe them to us again. And was it during the telling of these stories that you began to hear these things moving around you?
Yes, it was during the stories. I hadn't thought about that, but yes, it was. It was during the stories. And because it really drove the kid nuts, and he was making himself nervous anyway. Just recanting the stories and what was happening and what had happened to him, and then all of a sudden we started hearing the noises, and he. I'm not going to say he went ballistic, but he was extremely nervous. And of course, like I said, John told everybody to freeze, and we did. And it was, and just listened. That was the freakiest time of all. Just listening. And I guess hoping for something, but we didn't get it. And didn't hear another thing. And until the morning, of course.
If I put you back there, just mentally for a moment, if you just close your eyes and just put yourself mentally back in that moment, when this is happening, are you noticing any smells, any other noises?
No.
There's
we heard things, but there was nothing else. There were no smells. There were no any of the other things that will typically come out in a Sasquatch discussion or story. And it was, you just had 6 people there with their eyes wide open and a fire going in the middle of the camp. And, of course, it's South Florida, so we didn't have tents. We had sleeping bags, but we didn't have tents. So we were totally exposed. And John had his .45 out. I had my 9mm out. And everybody's just looking around, but we didn't hear anything else. But it was, nobody slept. And when the sun came up, the National Geographic guy said, I'm going to go check my cameras. We didn't think that whoever it was that was there that night was still around. I don't know why, because if I'd have been that photographer, I would not have gone alone. I would have gone with somebody. And he went and he checked all of his cameras. He got nothing. And so he took a different path, if you will, back to the camp with his camera equipment. because he was lugging it all now. And that's when he started seeing the tracks. And there were, it had rained just a little bit the night before, not enough to drive us crazy without tents, because it was, we were awake anyway. So just kept putting wood on the fire. And he saw a number of broken things near a path, broken branches and stuff, but nothing complete.
But these footsteps, these prints, how would you describe?
Yes.
If give me the size and dimensions. Were they wearing a shoe? Were they defined bare naked footprints?
Toes. Yeah, they were bare naked footprints. What there was of them, there was a heel. There were a couple of toes. There were toes that were maybe about the size of a guy's thumb. And then we heard a holler from the photographer, and he said, come here, I found something. And he had found a complete print, barefoot, as you said, I'm going to say about 14 inches long. And it was pretty good. It was a good one. But again, the path was a combination of sand and soil, and it was damp. So it was a beautiful print. It really was. And there was no place that he could have carried it with him. And he was loaded down with his gear, and something that big, you're thinking, is it fake? Did he make this? And but we couldn't see how he could have done that. And John asked the National Geographic guy. He said, "Did you bring plaster?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And so they plastered up the print, and then the National, and we obviously let it set, took it out, and the National Geographic guy started taking pictures. And John ended up on the front page of the National Enquirer newspaper, which back then was the epitome of the weird and strange. And that
right, but unfortunately, that newspaper is also considered a rag mag that, is usually filled with salacious stories of silliness. But it didn't have that same feel in the 70s?
No, it did not. It did not. And it wasn't the New York Times, don't misunderstand me, but it was a newspaper that was trying to keep itself as clean as it could, but it wanted to print as much as they could get their hands on as far as stories were concerned, of whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's aliens, whether it's ghosts, whether it's, you name it. And I contacted the newspaper and tried to get a copy of that page, but I was not, they were nice about it, but the answer was no. And I have thought about doing it again, asking again, for the sake of the book, because I could use that photo. And I know it was 72 or 73, and it was their front page. So with microfilm being what it is now, I figured they have it. They have it someplace if they want to look it up. Maybe when the book is published, there'll be enough hullabaloo to make him go to the trouble to look it up. And because it was a full page, it wasn't just in the corner on the front page. It was the front page. And it was, we just didn't know what was going to happen. We were surprised about that, about the front page business, but it was a time that we were just not sure about a lot of things. And your imagination can make you crazy when you run into a situation like that. And we didn't want that to happen, but we couldn't stop it from happening. And so the Archaeological Society were happy. We got a good paycheck. And it was a time when all of a sudden there seemed to be stories about Bigfoot everywhere. And we didn't know why, but we kept saying to ourselves, we were there, we saw it, and we know what's going on. And the aliens, of course, were another part of the story for John and I. And we were together about 3 years.
Let me hear this. Hold on one second now.
Yeah.
With the Bigfoot encounter, what you're able to find, making the Archaeological Society happy, digging up that information, getting the photographic proof, hearing these things, you share this with the world. How did the world receive you and John and the team? And why didn't it appear in National Geographic as opposed to the National Enquirer?
All good questions. And after we got our paycheck, we basically disappeared. And I have no idea why it was not, why it didn't get more attention than it did. But I'm trying to say this correctly. We kind of forgot about what had happened to us, because it just seemed like something that we thought would be a good idea. Remember, we're dealing in a world of bad guys, and for John and I, it was just something else weird that happened to us. And we didn't concentrate on it like we would have had we been professionals. Looking for the Yeti, we found something, now we get it published, now we do this, now we do that. That was the geographical, that was the Archaeological Society's job. And whatever they did, we don't know. Sorry to be ignorant, but we just went about what we did and went back to our jobs until a few years later.
Did you ever break down and tell anybody on that expedition the other aspect of your story?
No, we never did. We never did. Did you two discuss it again after that, or did you both just kind of... No, we discussed it. Alone?
Okay.
Yeah, we discussed it. And it continued to be scary, and we just... The easiest way to understand it is if I tell you what happened a few years later.
Okay, please do.
If we have the time.
Let's do that. Let's do that right after this.
Do you experience stress or have anxiety or even chronic pain like myself, or have trouble sleeping at least once a week? Well, you're not alone. Many of us do. Personally, I've got real bad chronic pain, and I have lots of trouble sleeping because of that. Hi, I'm Tim from Beyond the Darkness, your co-host and your producer, and I'll tell you, I've got real bad chronic pain. I've got 13 herniated discs in my neck and back full of pain, and I've got real bad chronic arthritis and degenerative disc disease, and I've got 2 knees that need to be replaced, and I'm always suffering with pain, and luckily I've got a friend that'll help me out. And I'm not talking about a friend on the corner, not that type of friend. I'm talking about Feels. Feels has helped me relieve a lot of that pain. And I'll tell you, just a dropper full a couple of times a day has been getting me through. And oh man, I'm telling you, that pain has been subsiding and I've felt much, much better. I was searching for anything that would have helped, and I discovered Feels, and Feels has been easing back that pain and helping me get back to life as normal. What is Feels, you may ask? Well, Feels is premium CBD delivered directly to your doorstep. What does Feels do? Well, Feels naturally helps reduce stress, anxiety, pain, and sleeplessness. Now, my condition was pretty bad before I started taking Feels, and I was looking for everything. You know, I had been on opioids, and I'm slowly cycling myself off of opioids. At one point, I was on morphine, and I was on Vicodin. I was on both in some pretty high doses. I'm completely off the Vicodin now, and I'm cycling myself off the morphine, the MS Contin, and getting myself to a place where I can eventually be completely off of opioids, absolutely completely off of opioids because of CBD and all natural stuff to get me off the opioid train, so to speak. Nothing good comes of being on opioids if you're a chronic pain sufferer. All you can do is keep going up and up and up and up with the opioids, and nothing good ever comes of that. So find yourself something natural if you really are suffering from chronic pain, and Feels is one of those things that you can help get yourself off of that never-ending spiral. I'm telling you, CBD, if you've never tried it before, is something that will help you get to a spot where you're starting to feel normal again. And you can start to feel normal again with Feels. It's real easy to take. What you do is you just place a few drops of Feels under your tongue, and you can feel the difference within minutes. Sometimes it may take you up to 20 to 30 minutes, especially if you have a lot of chronic pain like I do. But I tell you, you just take that dropper and you take those drops, put it underneath your tongue. And when I did it, it took me about 20 minutes. To really absorb, and I took quite a bit. I actually took about 3/4 of a dropper full, and with the amount of pain I was feeling, put it under my tongue. And what's neat is I've had quite a few of you reach out to me since last week and ask about my experience with it, and I've let you guys know. I took mine for pain and for sleeping. And if you have questions and you can't get a hold of me by messenger, you do have real human support that will talk with you. If you're new to CBD, Feels offers a free CBD hotline and text message support to help guide your personal experience. So you're not in the dark. You're not alone. You don't go alone with questions unanswered. So you can get those questions answered right away if you have any questions about your CBD experience. You can feel better naturally. Feels works naturally to help you feel better. There's no high, there's no hangover, there's no addiction. It's not that part of the plant that you're thinking about. CBD just helps you feel better naturally without those icky highs or hangovers or addiction. It's just great feeling naturally. Your membership, join the Feels community and get Feels delivered to your door every month. You'll save money on every order, and you can pause your order or cancel at any time. So you control the way you receive your order every month. But I guarantee you, once you get Feels, you're going to want to continue to get Feels every month and continue feeling great. I know I feel great. You're going to want to feel great as well. How do you feel great, Tim? How do you take that first step forward? Well, here's how you do it. I tell you, Feels has me feeling my best every day. It can help you too. You want to become a member? You can do it today by going to feels.com. That's FEALS.com/darkness. And here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you 50% off your first order with free shipping. How does that sound? It's pretty good, huh? Go to Feals, that's FEALS.com/darkness to become a member and get 50% off your first order with free shipping. What are you waiting for? Get into better health today and start feeling better. Relieve that anxiety. Relieve that sleeplessness. Get rid of that chronic pain. Go to Feals.com/darkness, become a member, and get 50% off your first order with free shipping today. Hey everybody, as you might have heard last week, and we might have told you last week, we are excited that we are now available to stream free on Spotify. If you haven't tried listening there yet, it's free to download and use Spotify on any device. It's a great listening experience, and you can go straight from listening to, let's say, Justin Timberlake or Van Halen. Sorry, Billie Eilish. And go ahead and switch right over to Beyond the Darkness right there in the same app. Just search for our show, Beyond the Darkness, or Billie Eilish. You can search for her too on Spotify to start listening for free. And remember, it's totally free, even if you're not a Spotify premium member. So go ahead and do it today. Beyond the Darkness. We want to see you there on Spotify. It's Spotify and Beyond the Darkness and Podcast One, all one great team together.
All right, Patti, we are all ears and hanging on every word. So now this is a few years later. You've let yourself just kind of marinate on your experience. What happens a few years later?
John and I broke up after about 3 years, okay? And I had not seen him for some time. And I ran into him. He ran into me at a boat show in Miami Beach. And he asked if he could walk me to my car. And I said, okay. And when we got there, he started. He said, do you remember when we were on the island and what happened to us? And I said, yeah, I remember it freaked us out bad, and we were thinking all sorts of strange things, like we were taken by aliens or something, and I laughed. And he said, it's not funny, Patti. Something happened a couple of months ago, I got to tell you. And he was in the Florida Keys, which if anyone is familiar, is basically one road. And he was driving back from the West Coast. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning in a big step van, like a UPS van. And he said, I was driving along, and all of us, and there was nothing on the road, no cars, no nothing, just me. He said, and all of a sudden, I heard a scream, an unbelievable blood-curdling scream. And he said, I slammed on the brakes, and he said, I know now that I must have fallen asleep at the wheel. And I was certain that I hit somebody. And so he said, I looked for an hour. I backed up the van. I looked on both sides of the road. I looked everywhere. But there was no one. And he said, I think, and he hesitated because he didn't know exactly how to tell me. But he said, I think that when we were in the Big Cypress, those people put a kind of a mark on us, and they're watching after us. He says, has anything happened to you that should have been bad, but it wasn't? And it was very strange that you didn't get hurt. And I said, well, I've always considered myself to be kind of lucky. He says, well, maybe you're having luck with help. He says, I think the aliens are looking out for us. And nothing will probably bad ever happen to you because of that. And I said, but why, John? Why would they do that? He says, I don't know. But that's what I think. And he was dead certain. I got to know him fairly well in 3 years. And he was not a fanciful guy. He was curious, but not to an extreme. And it was just something that he couldn't explain any other way. And I never saw him again. But I also will never forget what he said and the way he said it. I say it better in the book. But it was, I couldn't get it out of my mind for weeks. And I started going back over things that had happened to me and wondering why. And there were a few things. There were a few things that would have been detrimental to me personally, as well as my business, but it didn't happen. Something came in to save me, and I started wondering about it, and I looked at the scar on my wrist again, and I don't know, Dave. I don't know.
Have you ever thought of having a doctor examine to see if there might be an implant?
Yes,
did you ever do that?
I have. Yes, I have. I've seen on the Science Channel, I've seen where some alien abductors have a little black thing that has been implanted in them. And yes, I have thought about it quite a bit, actually. And all it would take would be an X-ray. And I have, yes.
What's held you off from trying that?
I'll let you know. I say?
What's held you off from checking that?
I want to finish the book or make it close to being finished before I go to a little bit of trouble to get it done. And if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But if there is something there, then we just changed the whole story, didn't we?
Certainly. What about, I know our listeners are going to be curious, have you ever considered hypnotherapy to do a regression to see if it can uncover that 3-hour gap of missing time and what happened to you?
Also thought about that. I've also thought about that, and that probably, if you hadn't asked, I was going to tell you that was the other thing that I'm thinking about the possibility of doing, probably sometime this summer. And have you, I'm not the one asking the questions, but have you ever been hypnotized?
Yes.
Okay.
I have somebody.
Like?
I have somebody that I trust implicitly and would be happy to connect you with to share this story and get it out there if you would have an interest in doing so. And we can talk about this off air, but I would just request that whatever the findings are, you would be willing to share them with us on the show.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I would be delighted to. And my answer to your implied question is yes. I would like to meet that individual. And because I have no idea where John is these days. I don't even know if he's still with us. But something happened to us that day. And it was very strange. And we were able to put some semblance of maybe, yes it did, maybe it didn't, when recently now, I'm talking in the last 2-3 years, the Science Channel and others have been doing a lot more investigations. Of course, the government opened their books a little bit. And so I'm seeing things, testimonies from people who had an experience similar to ours. And I'm going, well, maybe it did happen. Because that's what happened to us, and that's what, and I understand, and I'll be damned. And so I'm laughing, and yet I'm wondering. So
do you regret now?
I'm going to look into it a little bit more.
Do you regret now never having asked the other adventurers out with you if they had experienced any missing time or anything strange occurring to them?
No, we figured it was pretty much us. I mean, we had isolated ourselves. No one could see us, and it never occurred to us, frankly, that something that happened to us had also happened to the group. And considering how talkative the fisherman was, I suspect if something had happened to them that they would have said something. Not specifically to us, per se, but the group would have talked about it. And so I don't think there was anything.
Are you prepared for the answer you might get if you do hypnotherapy and find out what really happened?
Yeah. Excuse me, yes. I am. It would be at this time of my life, it would be a positive to me. And that's the way that I would look at it, Dave. And it would be, I'd be excited and assuming it wasn't too bad, then I'll go on some list someplace and probably be interviewed maybe, and it will go out there. Plus, it'll be in the book. So.
Now, was that the only experiences you ever had with something you would consider to be Bigfoot or alien?
Well, the aliens, as you said in your intro, I read a lot of books when I was a kid, and I believed in aliens. I think that there's too much out there there's more proof for aliens than there is proof for God. If you want to start making lists about something that is real and that exists, and it is. I had a UFO alarm that I made up and put on my windowsill. My brothers still remember that. And when I was in my physics class, we were asked to do a thing, and I came up with a way that the alien spacecraft could move the way that they did, and it still makes sense today, and now it's on television. What I was thinking back in 1968.
And what is that? Can you share that with us?
Well, yeah, it's just if you keep things simple, that generally works. My idea was just simply the idea of magnetic and the fact that they will repulse each other. And if you had a ship that was, boy, I haven't had to explain this in many, many years. If you had a ship that was made out of the correct metals, and it was a matter of the protons and the electrons, and they go in a small power source that would alternate whether or not the ship was positive or negative, or the top of the ship was positive and the bottom of the ship was negative, it would move. It would move exceptionally fast, and it could go in any direction. The only thing that was wrong with my theory back then was that it would require a metal or metals that had not been discovered yet or had not been manipulated so that their electrons and protons, which is all natural stuff now for physics people. And but back then it wasn't. But everything that I suggested back then is now on television. And not that I'm that brilliant, but I probably got lucky. But it would work. They seem to be concentrating on electromagnetic things, and this is not electromagnetic. What I'm talking about is straight magnetism, and it would not. And the idea that the skin of the alien crafts, if you will, could be very, very thin. It falls right into the category, because you wouldn't need very much. You don't need something that's 2 or 3 inches thick to put the electrons this way or putting it that way, and you would get something that could easily fly, could go exceptionally fast, and move in any crazy direction you want it to, and it's just that simple. If you've got the right materials, that's all you really need. And like I said, it's been a few years since I've had to talk about this. And
well, we thank you very much for coming forward to talk to us about all of this story and your theories. It's pretty remarkable.
I'm hoping the book will be a hit. And and simple things are underutilized. People have come to the thoughts that if something is complicated, it's better, and that's why I can't do it, because it's too complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. And the laws of physics, which I hope are still good, well, because right now, if you watch, again, the Science Channel, History Channel, whatever, a lot of theories that we've had, they're saying we were wrong. We were wrong. We were wrong. And so who knows what the truth is? That's what...
Well, I'll communicate with you off air. I'll get you in touch with this hypnotherapist and see if there's something we can coordinate to get your story understood. And we'll look forward to talking again in the future, Patti. And please, as soon as the book is available, let us know. We will put up direct links to it on our site and in our Amazon store. Folks, you can always go to darknessradio.com, click on our store tab. It'll take you into another page. You can click on that. It'll take you into our shop, where you can see all of the paranormal books we cover on the show, our true crime books, and some really cool paranormal giftware that's there. Patti Houtz, thank you so much for joining us on the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back again with you Tuesday with a True Crime Tuesday episode, and next week with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio.